Hello, my name is Jill Shook, and this is my mom, Donna Shook. And yesterday was Mother's Day, so we are here celebrating. And part of this celebration is to interview Mom and record some special memories. So we're going to start by talking about my mother's mom, which was Mae Johnson. And she's going to tell a little bit about her, especially her passing, which was very powerful. So, Mom, why don't you tell us about your mom?
Okay, I would like to. Anthony and I were talking about this last night, and it is a rather amazing story. My mother was almost 87 when she died. And
97.
97, sorry. And we had been away on a holiday, and she could hardly wait for us to get home. She and her nurse came up from Southern California. Jill brought them in Jill's car. And Grandma told her house bye-bye. And Jill says, Grandma, we're coming back. I'm going to be bringing you back to your home. And she just kept saying bye-bye house. And so on they came up the coast, and they arrived, and she couldn't wait to see all her great-grandchildren, and Jana and Dwight, and be with Jill and her nurse, which was Susie Q then. And so we did Christmas. We had Christmas dinner. We had also, the night before our Christmas dinner, we always put on a talent show. So Grandma got to enjoy that. And I will never forget Susie Q, who at one point sang in a nightclub in the Philippines, and so she had a lovely voice. So she got down in front of my mother, and my mother was in her wheelchair because she had had this stroke a few years before. And Susie Q sang this wonderful song for Grandma on her knees in front of Grandma, and it was just absolutely stunningly.
She sang "You Light Up My Life."
Yes, you're right, Jill. She sang "You Light Up My Life." That's exactly right. And it was, we all had tears. And so at dinner that evening, Grandma, she just started praying. My father was always the one that did the praying, but he was already deceased. So she started praying for everything, the silverware, the bowls, the flowers. And it was quite interesting.
Before it was even time to eat, she started thanking God and praying for everything.
Yes,
it was
she
really
did.
Amazing.
Yes, she did. And then after our meal, I heard her talking to Dwight, and she said, Dwight, I'd like to take you with me. And he was just real patient with her, and she said, but Jana needs you. You have to stay here. And then she said, maybe David and Jonathan, and maybe I could take them. And then she said, no, they have to be here with you. And, I'll never forget that.
Yeah. I even remember when I was telling her what a famous, amazing seamstress she was. And she was so cute. She says, well, I said, I think I maybe got a small part of that. She goes, well, somebody certainly should have gotten that skill.
So that was, that memory will always remain for all of us, actually. And she knew she was passing fast. She knew it in her heart, but she was going to stay alive for this Christmas celebration with her family at the ranch.
And then she died that night in my arms.
Yeah, she died in Jill's arms.
Wow, that's a beautiful story.
Now tell about her funeral, which was amazing.
Yes, it was amazing. My mother's funeral, it was a godsend for the family because she already took care of everything. And on scrolls, she had been writing down her funeral for probably a long time. And she had 3 pastors' names in case one would die or not be around. She had another name and another name. And lo and behold, the first 2 had died. And so the pastor that did this service Now I can't recall his name. Maybe I'll think about it. But he opened up the scrolls and he said, "This is for all of us. I, as the pastor, am here because the other two aren't here. They were first on the list." And he said, "I'm happy to do this service." And he says, "You're all here because you're on her scroll." On her scroll, she had all the ones that she wanted to be at her service. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, everybody was smiling and laughing. Actually, it was a really fun celebration. It was not sad.
She even had a list of all the pallbearers and then alternates in case some of them weren't around.
That's
they
right.
were all listed. She had the entire plan for the service outlined. Every word she wanted said.
That's
every
right.
song she wanted sung.
That's right.
It was amazing.
Well, any family would be thrilled to get that. I don't have that ready for my family, and I probably won't. But Grandma was like that. She had that totally organized because she wanted it the way she wanted it.
Well, tell about how many funerals she had gone to.
Oh, yeah, she was a funeral person, I could say. She would always look in the obituaries, and if she didn't know any of those people, and it was local where she could walk uptown to the funeral places, she would go as an added person in case there wouldn't be much of a crowd there. So she was always going to funerals of people she didn't know because she was afraid there wouldn't be enough people.
And she would bake a cake, a coconut cake usually.
Yeah, coconut cake.
And she'd go to her yard and pick a beautiful bouquet and bring it and make sure that everyone had someone at their funeral.
That's very beautiful.
It is a beautiful story.
So that's how she was able to plan her own for so many
Yeah, she knew a lot about them.
Well, she sounds like a wonderful woman.
And she was a wonderful woman, and she was so kind to the neighbors and all. I will never forget, she'd go up the alleyway from our home on Amridge in Fullerton, and she would take her cutting, her
hair cutting scissors,
hair cutting things, and a cake, and she would go up to this particular elderly man when he'd need a haircut, and he didn't much want her to do it, and she says, "Yeah, but I brought you a cake. If you want a haircut, you've got your cake too." And so he would give in, and she would do that. And heaven knows how many other people that she did haircuts up and down the alleyway.
Wow.
So it was always charming.
That's where you got your skill, Jill.
Yeah.
You got a lot from Grandma.
I did get a lot from Grandma. And she also was a real saver of things in the alley.
Oh, yes.
She would find all kinds of fabrics that people were throwing away, and then she'd
And
cut those
sweaters.
She'd cut those and make quilt pieces and end up making quilts, and she would totally recycle everything she saw.
Wow.
She was probably one of the biggest recyclers for that time.
Yeah.
And people would throw, she could never believe what people would throw out. Well, there would be sweaters, there would be skirts, there would be blouses. And she would fix them up, clean them up, mend them, wash them. And they would be in the corner of her bedroom. And so if any of the grandkids or anybody would come, she says, "Well, go check out the corner and see what is in there for you that you could use." So, yeah, she was really that kind.
She was
before her
amazing.
time, a recyclist, for sure.
Yeah.
And I can remember some of the little dresses that she would make for me. People would give them old garments, but the fabric was good. So she would tear those up and get places, big enough for the skirt and the bodices and the sleeves, and just recycle that fabric into clothes for me, her daughter.
And then she'd make clothes for all of the grandkids.
Then she'd make clothes for all of the grandkids.
And what was so special, then when those clothes would wear out, she'd make quilts. So you could look at all these quilts that she would give us, and it'd be all of the favorite old dresses she made, and we could remember all the dresses by looking at those quilts.
Yeah.
So
that was really special about my mother.
yeah.
Really
Well,
was.
Mama,
Okay.
thank you for telling about Oda. Let's see,
Lona
Mae Johnson.
Lona Mae Johnson.
Thank you both. Okay.
Okay, you're welcome.